Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Nerd Herders. Not just another episode,
No.
but the 52nd episode
Yes.
of Nerd Herders. We made it a whole year. My name is Rich,
I'm Nick.
and today is our discussion day. So a little thing was going around the internet not too long ago. Hashtag Fave7 video game. I don't know, whatever. Something like that.
Fave7.
Fave7.
And it was like, it was Fave7, hashtag Fave7 video games, hashtag
Mm.
Fave7 movies was going around with a
Yeah.
bunch of movie people.
But we're here to do our Fave7 video games.
Yeah, we are.
So we both have our lists of our Fave7 video games. So Nick, why don't you start us off?
So what do you want to go, like every other? Like back
We
and
can
forth?
do that.
Let's do it that way. So these are not necessarily in any particular order.
Okay.
But it's just my favorite 7 games.
Now, do you have a top favorite?
Well, yeah,
Okay.
I do.
Okay. Do you want to leave that one for last?
Yeah, I'll leave that for last.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, did you rank yours in like actual order?
No, I don't have mine in order, but I know the one that would be my top
Okay,
game
fair
of all
enough.
time.
So my number 7 is Brawl, Smash Brothers.
Oh, okay.
Not Melee, not the original.
Mhm. Brawl's an interesting choice.
Not Wii U, not 3DS.
Mhm.
Brawl. It's the one. Maybe I spent overall probably more time with 64 or Melee when I was younger. I mean, I was already in college when Brawl came out, but I spent a hell of a lot of time with friends playing this one. But I thought it was really the kind of the complete package. In some ways, everybody loves Melee because of how fast it was, but in some ways it was a little bit too fast, especially coming off of 64.
Sure.
And for me, Brawl felt the most balanced,
Okay.
the most complete. I am probably one of the only people who actually really liked the like side-scrolling mode that they had in that one, when you unlocked all those like sweet cutscenes. I thought the roster was the deepest in the most interesting way to me. I know that they added, different characters, maybe more characters for Wii U and 3DS, but it was my favorite incarnation of the roster. It was kind of like they added some really cool elements without making it start to feel kind of gimmicky. Like for
Okay.
some reason to me, like adding Pac-Man in retrospect, it just seems like one step too high.
Really?
It was one like Sonic and Pac-Man and Mega Man. It just seems like too far removed from the Nintendo staple. Like it's still cool, don't get me wrong, but like Brawl was like the perfect of just having the right amount.
Okay.
And it controls so well when you plug in the game controller.
What about tripping?
I don't fucking care about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
That seems to be everybody's big
But
gripe.
here's the thing: I really like Melee. I've liked every version of this
Sure.
series, and I can't wait for whatever the next one is in a few years. On hopefully the NX, if
Yeah.
Nintendo's still around. But that's my number 7. How about you?
Let's see. What do I want to put? Because other than my top one, these aren't in any particular order. I'm gonna go with a newer one.
Oh, okay.
Which right now, thinking on this list, because I was kind of
Chibi Robo.
no. Life is Strange.
I still have not started.
It right now, go. Oh, I broke this off. You want to chew on it? You want to eat it? You like to eat random little bullshit
metal.
things?
What am
I
I,
don't know.
savage?
I'm kind of. But right now, where this list sits and kind of going through what I've played recently, what I used to play, this is one of those games that the story really stuck with me more than anything that I can think of in a long, long time. Even like The Last of Us, which I love. Like just something about this story and my experience with it just hit me in the gut and just like sucked me in. I mean, it's my phone wallpaper right now. My girlfriend still gives me shit that I don't have a picture of us on my phone, but I've got a Life is Strange photo on there.
As you do.
But this was just an excellent game for storytelling. I mean, the gameplay is fine, but I mean, it is a very story-heavy game. Yeah, I don't want to say too much because I don't want to really like spoil the places it goes.
I'm excited to get into it. My problem is I know that it's different, but I keep every once in a while I'll play a game and then I'll play a Telltale game that I hadn't played yet, and it just then like for the next game it seems like it's in some way similar.
Okay.
and I'm not like, I'm like, well, I got to get something else in me,
Yeah.
and then I'll go to that, and then all of a sudden, Batman Telltale comes out. I'm like, well, I got to jump into this.
Yeah.
And then I'm not ready for it again. But I'm excited to play that one. That's a good choice. The next game that I will mention is I just mentioned the dude. He's one of my favorites, Batman. Arkham Asylum.
Okay, cool. I've never played an Arkham game.
So those first two games, Arkham City and Arkham Asylum, are just everything that I like dreamt of. Like you are Batman.
Yeah.
In a way that we had never experienced. Now that's apparently even further elevated by like Arkham VR.
VR for that?
It's enticing.
Okay.
But they're incredible. The stories are great. I would love if the Ben Affleck Batman movie really was some
Like
feature-length version
but...
of Arkham Asylum. Because it's so tight, and yet they incorporate so many different villains, and it's just so great. I couldn't recommend more, assuming that it plays well and it runs well and everything, that you get the Return to Arkham HD collection.
Yeah.
Again, all things considered.
Assuming
Otherwise, go back and somehow play the other versions.
Well, I've got the first one sitting there, but I haven't had a chance to.
Fantastic games.
Did you like Night?
I haven't finished Night.
Okay.
It's not that I didn't like it. It's just it didn't get its hooks in me. Maybe it's too much of a good thing at that point. You've done it 3, maybe 4 times by that point. But I mean, those first 2 games are great. It was kind of a plus or minus. I just think that the Asylum is the tightest of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. My next one might be a little controversial to some people.
Oh, interesting.
BioShock Infinite. Now, I've seen a lot of people put BioShock, the first one, on there, which is a great game, but I don't remember a whole lot of it. Like, whenever I played
Were
it...
you drunk?
No, like, it just, for whatever reason, when I played it, like, it just didn't... Like, it was... I thought, oh, this is a great game, but I don't ever think back to it very often, and that might change with the new collection that comes out, because I do want to go back and replay it. But BioShock Infinite, it hit me at a right time where, like, I still played games, but I wasn't, like, super... And, like, it was almost, like, in the upper swing after kind of, like, a break from games. And it was the first time in a long time that I remember, like, getting home from work or something and being like, oh, that's all I want to do is sit down and I want to play this game. And, like, I love the gameplay, and the story was just so engrossing. But I know a lot of people prefer BioShock, which I appreciate, but I didn't want to put that one on this list having not played it. But BioShock Infinite is one that I think back to often for its story and its gameplay.
Yeah, no, it's a very good game. It's the only BioShock game I've played. I think I mentioned
really?
that recently. It's kind of why I'm excited to get the HD collection, because I haven't ever played the other 2. But yeah, I mean, it's a totally good game. I can understand why. I mean, I can't understand in comparison to why other people choose the other ones, but it's a fine choice. I'm not surprised it's on your list at all.
Cool.
The next one that I have is we thought we knew everything about combat, and then it was evolved. Halo Combat.
Oh,
Evolved.
okay.
From the original Xbox. I don't know if I remember going to a buddy of mine's house, Christmas 2001 or whenever the Xbox came out, and he had gotten an Xbox, and I went upstairs. I let myself in. I remember this vividly, going upstairs, and him and another one of our friends were playing this game, and I was like, "What are you guys playing?" And he's like, "It's some game called Halo. It's amazing." And they were on, like, I think it's the 2nd level when you first get the tank in the snow. And I was just like, why is there a line in this screen? Like, you guys are doing multiplayer? And they're like, no, it's the story. I was like, what do you mean it's the story? And they're like, yeah, we're playing, like, they said cooperative. And I was like, what is this? And I was like, oh, like, it was just so, and then, like, it was just so, just like, oh my God, like, this is mind-bending.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, then we jump into the multiplayer, and the multiplayer is so good. So good. And then I remember LAN parties. Like going to friends' houses, and we all had our different TVs, and we're all linked up in different, and it was just like, amazing, and we're just so many hours and just getting so good at driving the Warthog, and just like, but just those co-op was it was just amazing. And I mean, I love the franchise. It's definitely lost some of its luster,
Sure.
and I hope it can get it back, but we thought it was going to get us back with the last game.
Yeah. I remember when I got Halo, and I don't remember why we were going out, but I remember being with my dad in a Best Buy, and he was buying me my Xbox and got me a copy of Halo. And it was like, oh yeah, he's like, I heard this was like, this great game or whatever, and I remember thinking, oh man, like it was like 2000 or 2001,
something.
So I was like 10 or 11, and I was thinking, oh, he's buying me this I'm allowed to play this M-rated game, like whoa. And then like getting to the stages with the flood and all that was
horrifying.
Just like that was one of the most terrifying like game experiences.
It's one of the best gaming moments of all time, in my opinion, when the flood first arrived. It's genuinely scary.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, Halo 2, Halo 3, both really good. 2 could have been my choice because it kind of improved on everything. But there's just something about all those story
like
beats.
Just discovering a lot of that Halo lore for the first time.
Getting betrayed by your stupid robot friend. All of that. Awesome. Cinematic, great, good storytelling, compelling main character. Great game. First Halo.
Cool. So my next choice here.
Your number 5.
My number 5 choice. I'm going to go with Dead or Alive 4.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. This is a fighting series that has always, for a long, long time...
Tiscalated you?
I know a lot of people will assume, oh yeah, it's because that, but I think these are genuinely great, like fighting games. Like, Mortal Kombat, like I've enjoyed, but I've never gotten really hardcore into. Same with Street Fighter, but Dead or Alive, like it's so fast, it's so fluid. I remember playing the second one on my Dreamcast, and then when the Xbox came out, you could only play the third one on Xbox, and then I think the fourth one was when they really kind of perfected it and had like the full cast of characters that you would want from these games. And I enjoy the fifth one, but I just have a lot more memories playing the fourth one. And that was one of the only fighting games I've ever sat down and like, I'm going to go through training mode and I'm going to try to learn all these characters, special moves and combos and this and this and this. So I could have really picked 2 because that's kind of where I started with the franchise. But I think 4 is really where they perfected sort of the game of this.
Believe me, I put Brawl on. There are other fighting games that could have made this list. I'm kind of out of it now. It's a rarity for me to get a fighting game, but like Street Fighter 2, Mortal Kombat 2, Marvel vs. Capcom, Tekken 3 was my jam.
I remember Tekken, and there's like Dragon Ball fighting games and stuff I used to play.
Absolutely fantastic, because especially when you have the right group, I feel like, to play it with, they can be amazing experiences. So no, that's a good choice. My number 4 is Pokemon Red.
Oh.
It's really hard to narrow down Pokemon. I didn't want to ever on this list do the thing where I just say Pokemon in general.
That's a game I totally forgot I should have put on my list.
It's just, you think about how many hours was spent doing that, and how obsessed with every single one of those characters.
I never even finished Y.
Which I booted it back up 2 weeks ago.
But I put it like, I looked at the time clock and I put 40 hours into it. So I have to wonder, I put 40 hours into that game now. How much time did I put into like Yellow or Gold and Silver back in the day? Much. And I remember having the Gold Strategy Guide where it had the map of every town and the list of this, and I remember it being like kind of ragged and destroyed just from using it so much.
Yeah. I can't imagine how many hours we put into those games when we were younger. But it's fantastic. I mean, top to bottom, I think that other Pokemon games have come around and told better stories, more interesting stories, more layered stories.
Yeah.
But it is, for what it is, perfect from the first second till the end. So I had to go with Red, the one that started it all.
Cool. Um, Interesting thing about Pokemon for me, I first got Blue at GameStop and then traded it in.
Oh yes, I think you've told me that. That's
Yeah, I got it used at GameStop, then traded it in and got 2 Simpsons Game Boy games.
worth it.
Like they go to camp and they do something else, and then I eventually got Yellow, so that was kind of like my full one into it. The next one I'm gonna put on here is Toe Jam and Earl. I was more of a Sega kid growing up. We had an NES, but it was really more my dad's. But I played Mario and like a bunch of stuff on there. But Genesis was my first console, and I don't just have a lot of memories playing Toe Jam and Earl on my own and playing it well into my adulthood now and stuff, but also playing it co-op. Like that was, I don't particularly care for co-op games, but that was a game that for me was, I would totally sit down, like my cousins had a Genesis, and we would sit down and we'd play co-op and go through the levels. Did you ever play? Okay.
Yeah, Toe Jam and Earl was actually the very first game that I got for my Genesis.
Oh wow.
That and NBA Jam. So yeah, I mean, I have very fond memories of that game as well. Actually, the first video game I probably ever got ever.
Wow.
I didn't have a console before Genesis.
Okay.
In '95 or whatever. So definitely a meaningful game.
Mm-hmm.
No ill will towards that at all. It's interesting, that was my first system too. Didn't have a Game Boy, didn't have anything. Genesis. And none of those games ended up making my cut. I have fond memories for the system as a whole. There's one game, and maybe if we talk about our honorable mentions real quick, I'll bring up.
Okay. Because I have a few of those.
My next game is GoldenEye.
Oh, okay.
007. That is the game above maybe any other game ever that I have the most memories of playing.
Mm-hmm.
Countless afternoons. It maybe is the only game ever that my dad would play.
Oh wow.
So good memories of that, but then just all my friends. And and even as recently as I spent a year living with some friends of mine in Gainesville.
Okay.
In 2009, 2010, we played it all the time. Like, you can still just play that game. I mean, it's an amazing experience, specifically for the multiplayer, but even with yourself, and then you get the cheats and you get all that. Fantastic. Best movie to video game adaptation ever.
Yeah, that was a game for me that I played a lot at friends' houses, but I didn't ever have a 64. So until like recently, when I finally was able to get a used one. So I have memories of it, but it was never something like any of those games were never like high on my list of like gaming memories and stuff. What number are we on?
That was my number 3. So this is your number 3.
My number 3. Ooh. I'm going to go. See, I've got some. I'm looking at my list and I've kind of put everything there, so I've got some honorable mentions here, but so I'm trying to do this a little bit on the fly. I guess I'll go with Link to the Past as my next one. I didn't get into Zelda until 2009, 2010. So my first one was Twilight Princess. Because I had the NES, but the games I had there were based on whatever my dad had, and he didn't have Zelda. And then I didn't have my own Nintendo console until the Wii.
Okay.
And a good friend of mine was like, oh, like you've never played a Zelda game? And I was like, no. And she's like, we need to get Twilight Princess for the Wii. And so I picked that up, and that kind of started. And I remember over a Thanksgiving break, right before or right around when Link Between Worlds came out, like I finally sat down to play Link to the Past, and it was like with 2 days, like I just sat down and just binged through this game. And other than one boss, it was an incredible experience.
Okay.
That dumb skull spider boss, you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
And then the spikes shoot down from the... Oh,
couldn't stand it.
I was up till like 3 a.m. trying to beat that fucking thing.
But
I think that's probably my favorite Zelda game.
It's great. My next game is actually a Zelda game, so it's a good segue.
Okay, cool.
It's Ocarina of Time.
Okay.
It's fantastic. I mean, the great thing about that series, maybe more than any other series for me, is it is hard to choose a favorite.
Yeah.
There are 7 top... You could do #fave7 Zelda games. Right?
Yeah. Because I have... I didn't... like I played Twilight, like I said, Twilight was my first one, so I didn't have the knowledge of everything else to go, oh well, like some people aren't huge fans of that, and I really like Skyward Sword. So
I thought Skyward Sword is fantastic.
So my fave 7 Zelda games would be different than somebody who maybe grew up with.
Yeah. I've never played Zelda 2.
I haven't
played.
I will be playing it though for the NES Classic when that comes out.
Yes. Excited about that. But I think I've played every other game with the exception of like Oracle of the Seasons and some of the other early Game Boy ones. But I played Spirit Tracks. That's the only handheld version I've ever played.
I've played Phantom Hourglass.
Yeah, I didn't get that.
But so Ocarina of Time.
But Ocarina of Time, I mean, it was just, you have to understand that, like, getting a Nintendo 64, I got it 2 years after, at least. I got it when Ocarina of Time came out.
Mm-hmm.
So it had already been out for a year or two, and then that came out that holiday season, and that was the game that I got with it. And it was just like, wow. I mean, I had played entirely with a cousin. I had played A Link to the Past. I had Genesis. They had the Nintendo systems, and it was like, wow, this is that, but this is so different.
Yeah,
like, you'd never seen anything like that. Like, it was, you just hadn't seen anything like that. It was mind blowing, and the story is so great, and the music, and then that moment when he grows up, the passage of time, and it was just like, oh my god, like anyone who's lived through that is like, that's one of the best moments in video game history. It's fantastic. Right up to that last battle, it's just so epic. I guess my memories are the strongest of playing that one over any other. I mean, Wind Waker is great, Twilight Princess is great, Skyward Sword is great. I mean, they're all so good. I can't wait for Breath of the Wild. I hope it surpasses it. I hope it ends up on this list one day.
I think that has the chance, from what I've seen, to surpass
I hope
it.
so.
But we'll find out.
I mean, you never know. But that's a fantastic game. Both of those are.
So my next one, this is a spot that I've gone back.
This is your number 2.
This is my number 2. So I've gone back and forth of where I want to put what I want to put in here because I've got a few honorable mentions here. But I think ultimately I'm going to go with another one that I've got a lot of great memories with. Is Zombies Ate My Neighbors.
Oh,
did you ever play that?
No.
So it was on Genesis and it was on SNES, and it was a single player co-op game, and it was a very like classic monster horror themed game where you had to go through the levels and save like random neighbors. There was like the tourists and the guys barbecuing and like a baby and like random stuff you had to go through and find.
I can actually remember the ads for this in Nintendo Power.
And then like the guy was like, he had like 3D, it was a very like 90s 80s like transition game of like the kid had like the 3D glasses and like a skull t-shirt, and the girl was like a hip girl with a hat and stuff. And you had like all these different weapons, and it was just like a love letter to like classic horror and even modern horror, because the first level is just zombies, but eventually you get like chainsaw wielding Jason-esque characters, or like there's like a mall level from the early on where it starts introducing these like little like dolls that are like Chucky, but they've got like giant axes and stuff. But your weapons go from like this water gun to like bazooka, and you could throw plates and dishes and tomatoes and like all kinds of stuff. And it was, again, as a not co-op gamer, this was a great game to play with somebody else, and that you could also have a blast playing with by yourself. And it's one of those games that I find myself returning to often, now still going, oh yeah, I want to pick that up again and play through a few levels of that.
Nice. That's a very cool choice. My number 1 game, and this is, the others are not exactly ranked in any definitive way,
sure,
but this is my number 1 game. Mass Effect 2.
Okay.
The greatest game of all time, in my opinion. Mass Effect 1, fantastic. Could have made this list as well. But this just kind of you'll hear differing opinions on this between these two. Some people really appreciate how RPG the first game is, and other people appreciate how 2 has the RPG elements, tone them back a little, and added up the action elements.
I feel like 2, from what I've heard, is typically like the standard of what I mostly hear from people is that their favorite.
For me, I mean, they're both so good. It's such complete experiences. There was more depth in terms of like in the first one, you can go anywhere in the galaxy. You can and in the first one you can survey planets to try and get minerals, but it's literally like it was like you're like you see the outline of the planet and you would have to like just do this like diagonal thing across and unlock. And 2 was just a little bit more detailed. And 3 is good. Bad ending aside, it's very, very, very good. But 2 is just so complete. The characters, the relationships you built, the way that 2 really plays off of your choices in the first one in amazing ways. Things that you do in the first game can so drastically change things about the second game. Like, it truly is this unique experience in ways that other games wish they could possibly be. It's so unbelievable. I can't wait for Andromeda. I can't wait for them to just actually make an HD remaster trilogy so I can play it. So I mean, but they finally said that it's inevitable.
Well, they did. Yeah. There's that came out, and then Peter Moore did an interview on IGN's Unfiltered that Ryan McCaffrey does, and said like, yeah, it's not going to happen. So
we'll see.
I'm sitting here torn, going, do I buy the PS3 remaster or do I just wait for the potentially inevitable, what I assume would be inevitable, which would make sense. I don't know why you wouldn't do it, but
I can't think of a more possibly rewarding experience. This series is some of the best science fiction ever told, and it's sci-fi Zelda. Like, if you like Zelda, that's what this is. Like, I mean, it in so many ways. I mean, in terms of all of the side quests that you have, I mean, it's clear there are similarities, and it's just so fantastic. I love Mass Effect 2. That's clearly my favorite game. Cool. What about you?
So my favorite game of all time, the other ones were kind of just, they were there, they weren't really right. But this is what I would put as my favorite game of all time, and it's Sonic the Hedgehog 3 and Knuckles. So not just 3, but the combined story of 3 and Knuckles, which some could argue it being a cop-out because it's 2 cartridges, but it was a game that was meant to be one story and was too big to fit on a cartridge, so they split it up into 2, so I count it as a whole game.
It's fair.
But this is always, as long as I can remember, this has been like my top game. The gameplay is incredible. I love going through and, trying to think of 100%ing it as far as you get the emeralds, and then you get like the better Chaos Emeralds, and introduced what has become my favorite non-Sonic character, Knuckles, over the years. But I absolutely fucking adore this game.
Nice. I mean,
I know Sonic's like a touchy subject for some.
Well, I mean,
some people.
But see, like I said, Genesis was my first console. That Christmas, I got Toe Jam and Earl. I got NBA Jam, and then the next game they got me was Sonic 2.
Okay, which is great,
fantastic.
Yeah.
And I remember even that, like, being wowed by, there's like those other levels when it changes perspective and you're going around.
Yeah.
And it was just like, I've never seen anything like this. This is amazing, and I would always try and unlock that. I think you got to one right after like the casino set level.
Well, you get to
I would always get it there. Yeah, I would always get it there.
You had to get 50 rings, you had to hit a checkpoint, and if you hit a checkpoint, the little stars would go around it, and you had to jump into that.
Right.
And then in 3, there were hidden, like, secret giant rings, and that would bring you to the special stages.
So I would play that constantly, because I only had 3 games. I mean, I would have been surprised if Sonic didn't somehow make your list.
Yeah.
Did you pre-order the Sonic Mania Collector's Edition?
Yeah, I fucking had that.
I thought it was very interesting that Amazon, for most Collector's Editions, doesn't give you the 20% off for that when they did.
Which Collector's Edition? Every Collector's Edition I've ordered from Amazon.
I thought that they usually didn't. I don't know. I thought I tried on another one. And
I've got Horizon pre-ordered on there, and Horizon.
Yeah, maybe you're right. But anyway, I pre-ordered it. That looks cool.
Yeah, I'm super. I wish it had a physical copy of the game, with it, but that statue is
The little
great.
cartridge thing.
Yeah, and like growing up, I was a big fan of the comics.
Mm-hmm.
Like I never have read a lot of comics, but that was the one comic book series that I got into.
I would always.
And so there's a lot of like tie-in comic stuff with that I got really into. And
yeah, I would watch the cartoon series as well. It was just neat that he was everywhere in a cooler way, in a lot of ways when we were young, than Mario.
Yeah.
Because we kind of just missed Mario.
Mm-hmm.
Where some of those early games, neither of us had a Mario game on our list.
Yeah.
If you want to talk about honorable mentions, there is one that is an honorable mention.
Okay, yeah. Do you want to do your honorable mentions?
Yeah. Which is Super Mario Galaxy.
Okay.
Was easily, all of these could have been 8. They could have been numbered.
Sure.
It was debated on. Super Mario Galaxy could have been on the list. Rogue Leader.
Okay.
Which was, there's a couple. There's Rogue Squadron. There's Rogue Leader. For GameCube, so amazing. Just, right from the get-go, making that Death Star trench run in a way that looked lifelike. Now you play Battlefront, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
It doesn't, but it did then. Final Fantasy VIII, favorite Final Fantasy game of all time. And then the other one, I said that there was one Genesis game. One Genesis game that nearly cracked the list. Aladdin.
Oh, wow.
Some of those Disney platformers
those are really good.
were fantastic. Fantastic games. And for me, Aladdin was the one that I play all the time. And like I said with GoldenEye, the only game I can ever remember my dad playing with me. Aladdin, the only game my mom would ever play.
Wow.
And she was good at it. Like, surprisingly good.
Nice.
Never would play in any other game. So those are the other games that could have made it. Final Fantasy VIII, Super Mario Galaxy, Aladdin.
Cool.
Those are the choices. What about you?
I just got Final Fantasy VIII for the Vita. Like on that they did like a sale.
I didn't know that you could get it on
PSN Network. Yeah, there's a lot of them that are
game
on there.
changer.
So I'm excited to finally sit down and play that.
Love it.
So my honorable mentions, I've got 4 on here. First one's Rise Star for the Genesis. Did you ever play that?
Nope.
You were a star and your arms stretched. It was one of those platformers. If I remember correctly, it kind of evolved out of Sonic a little bit. Like I think, or something, or you were originally going to be a rabbit whose ears stretched and they turned into a star. And he kind of became like one of those sort of cult favorite characters. And he shows up randomly in a couple of the 2 Sega racing games, or the Sega All-Star Racing games. Like he's just like waving in one of them and then he's somehow in another one. Crash Bandicoot 3, Warped. That was the game that sold me on my PlayStation. I remember asking for Christmas like a PlayStation 1 and then the third Crash game. Last of Us. I've got on here.
I actually considered it. The game just sticks with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Only in the last year have I played that game. It sticks with you. It's a powerful game.
And that was a game, I think I've told it on here before too, where I started it and about 4 hours in, like I stopped just because I was like going to bed or something. And I didn't get back to it for a few months later just because I was kind of like, like it's fine. And then once you dig into that, like it really gets going.
Yeah.
And the last one I have on here is Hatsune Miku Project Diva F, which is the first Vita game to come out for that series. And that kind of kicked off my love for that series. And which I've enjoyed rhythm games in the past, but that was one of the few that I've really got into in the amount of hours that I have put into that series. So I put that on my honorable mentions.
Nice. There was one more that I wanted to bring up.
Okay.
A game that literally probably kept me interested in school. The Oregon Trail.
Oh.
Fantastic. I can't hear something about that game or hear the word dysentery.
You hear the word dysentery a lot now?
But whenever you do, it's nothing but fond memories.
Yeah.
It is a very, very great game. I love the Oregon Trail.
I don't think we had Oregon. I'm sure we had it, but I don't remember playing much of it. I remember playing more of like Carmen Sandiego in school
Those were great too.
than anything else.
I loved Carmen Sandiego. You would always play that in the library. But Oregon Trail, I remember vividly 3rd grade, 4th grade, 5th grade. Anytime you could get computer time, that's what you did on the disc, on the floppy. Eject that junk.
Good old floppy disks. I still got some floppy disks somewhere.
There's a lot of other... It's interesting, you had Life is Strange on there. But besides that, we didn't talk about any new games.
No.
There are some games that I feel like maybe with some more time,
Yeah.
maybe with another playthrough.
Like I almost put Bloodborne on my honorable mentions, just because that was one of those games similar to Bioshock where I was like, I can't wait to get home and sit down and like play through this game.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely a few, but the thing is, I feel like the reason that some of these other experiences stuck out to us so much is something we talked about in the podcast last week. It seems like we just had more time for stuff back then.
Yeah.
We were talking about all the cartoons we watched, but like, what I said was with another playthrough of some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these things I will never have time to play through again
No.
because there's other stuff that comes out and
there's
life.
so many more games now than before, plus life and responsibilities.
That I don't know, like, I feel like another playthrough of Last of Us would cement it. I don't know when I'll ever play through Last of Us again.
No.
It might not happen. It's fantastic. I would love to, but
Mhm.
when am I going to do that? When am I going to
Yeah.
pour those 25 hours into that game or whatever again?
Sure.
I don't think it will happen. The only thing, I would do that. I would do the entire Mass Effect trilogy again. And that's kind of what separates that game,
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm sure that you would play Sonic 3 again.
Yeah. Oh, I mean, I've played that.
Right,
fucking
of course,
countless-
multiple times.
But I mean, that's a lot of what hit. For the most part, the games on my 7 were games that I have either revisited so many times over the years, or games that have hit me in a certain way. Like Life is Strange, I don't think I would ever go back and play that game again because those choices in that story were my choices in that story.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Like I've seen the other ending for that game, so I kind of know, just out of curiosity. But I don't think I could ever go back personally and sit through that game.
Yeah.
But like a lot of
I mean, even something like Gone Home was a powerful experience. I just don't
Yeah.
know. Even though that game's only, I mean, you can beat that game in whatever.
Sure.
But it's a 2-hour game. I don't know if I'd play that again.
or like Journey,
Walking Dead
like,
Season 1.
Yeah.
Incredibly powerful game. I don't think I could play it again.
Sure.
There's great games. Video games are awesome. Anyone
Yeah.
who thinks that they aren't, you haven't played the right games. Play the games that we talked about. What are your favorite 7 games? Let us know. You
Yeah.
can tweet it. I'm at Stonks.
I'm at Rich Belson. The channel's on Twitter at OABeer_official, and you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/overbeer. We're also right here on YouTube at youtube.com/overbeer, and every Friday on soundcloud.com/overbeer, iTunes, other podcast services. You can check out the Over a Beer podcast, which is Nick, myself, and sometimes Dana talking about random off-topic bullshit. Like Nick mentioned, we talked about old cartoons and stuff that we loved, and sometimes talk about games and movies and states and buckets and whatever else we feel like talking about. But you can check that out. But
Talk about buckets.
yeah, we talked about buckets a couple weeks ago.
Oh.
Filling
Fill in the bucket.
filling our buckets up, filling our special buckets up. And all those pervy old men walking around with
That's right.
children.
Yep.
And those super racist drawings. But that will wrap things up for this episode of the 52nd. This segment of the 52nd episode.
The only 52nd episode.
Yeah.
The only 52nd week.
Yeah, of the Nerd Herder Show. So until next time, drink up.
Butter me up.